6 o'clock, I'll call this special city council meeting to order. If you'll rise, we'll have an invocation followed by the pledge. Kim, will you please?
Thank you, Father, Lord, thank you for staying, Lord. We just thank you for your blessings, Lord. We thank you for watching over and protecting us. Father, we just ask that you just grant us wisdom, knowledge, and discernment tonight, Lord. We go over city business, Lord, and just help us to make decisions that's going to be in the best interest of the city. Forgive us for we fail, Lord. First in Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us. At the end, are there any public comments?
No, sir.
Next, we'll set a date for the public hearing for the fiscal year budget. Which one would you like to have that?
I had a regular meeting on the 22nd. That's the hearing for the adoption of the budget. And at that meeting, we'll schedule a public hearing and adoption for the taxes in September.
Do we need any action on that? Or
Yes.
make a motion, we set the date for the public hearing for the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget for our regular meeting on August 22nd.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will discuss the proposed 2023-2024 fiscal year budget.
Okay, trying to kind of pick up where we left off in our discussions at our last workshop during the regular meeting. What I've got in this budget proposal is a budget with no increase in rates or anything except for tax. And what I have in here is a proposal to keep the same tax rate as last year. And I don't want to get too far into that because that needs to be a separate discussion as we go forward. Long story short, we've included an increase of $86,000 in the budget, and actually we're probably looking more at $94,000 probably from taxes, additional revenue. Now, it's hard to pick it out of the budget because, you know, part of it is INS and part of it is maintenance and operation. And we don't usually budget the whole thing as current tax revenue because some of it will be delinquent. So it's just, we built that into this budget proposal. Like I said, no increases utility rates. We also moved the $380,000 payment for the swimming pool to fund number 8, which is the debt fund. And we think that's a better place for that to be instead of our operation. That would go into interest and sinking fund, fund 8, which is the debt fund or INS fund, whichever one you would call it. But that significantly changes our bottom line on our operation by putting that bond payment in the interest and sinking fund. And as we discussed at the last meeting, we figured there's probably $1 million in extraordinary expenses or extraordinary expenses in this year's budget. And one of them is the match for the new fire truck, which should be payable all during this coming fiscal year. and also street catch-up resurfacing of $500,000, more than what I anticipate us paying in future years. $750,000 is what we've got budgeted in this proposal. And adding those together, you're looking at about $1 million that can be kind of explained away when you're looking at the budget. Last year, we approved a budget that was a negative number, but we did have in mind those extraordinary expenses. Tried to include some stuff in this proposal that we discussed last time, and I think probably would be best to maybe look at some of those support documents before we dive into the budget, if y'all want to. Over on page 43, 42, 43. Yeah, 42. I've got we have the salary spot position in there that shows what we've got built into the budget. And kind of see where that's at. Now is this, Andrew, is this the one for this coming year?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And those are all increases according to our incentive step and grade program, which all kind of average out 2%. We don't have a cost of living built in there, but there is the merit increase of 2%. Some years we'll look at a cost of living across the board, but that would be in addition to the 2% merit increase that comes on the employee's anniversary date or hire date. You can look at those. Page 45 shows our step and grade that that's based off of. And 46 is our capital improvement plan, and pretty much the same as last time, except a few numbers have been changed. Police, I put a match in there for the tasers. We're pretty confident we can probably get that USDA grant for 55% of those $30,000 for the tasers. And of course we have the fire truck, and then some, looking at that first column on the left, fallout gear for the fire department, fire gear. We've been on that replacement program, and then went all the way down to licensing enforcement. I've got some money in there for a used pickup, for animal control. Then on page 47, I put the actual amount of a tractor that we're wanting to get in there. I just had that as an offsetting number in revenue for the tractor in Public Works, but I did actually put the actual price on there. Not try to tie those together or anything. And down to the utility fund, I've got, again, pickup and water and wastewater, a new pickup. If we can get some, the program's changed, but I feel confident we can get a couple of these during this coming fiscal year. And down on the lift station under wastewater, toward the bottom of this sheet, last meeting we talked about possibly doing submersible pumps for our wastewater lift station at Laguna. And Terry's done some estimate work here with getting some prices from pump companies. And we feel like we can do a change over to a submersible type lift station. Those details on that go from page 48 to 54, and you can kind of look at the existing system, and there's some information on the submersibles. Terry's eyes kind of lit up when we talk about submersibles, so he's been studying on this, and we feel like $175,000 will get us the equipment and maybe some of the installation stuff like the electrical, and I think probably the pump stuff for the most part will need to be put in by a contractor. Whatever we can't do, the contractor will do. But I got that included in the wrong place on the capital improvement in the budget actually. I had that listed under water instead of wastewater, so that's the only really change from a copy you have, is that doesn't change the bottom line or anything, but it changes what department we take that 175 out of. 175,000 out of. And on 55, page 55, actually 56, last meeting we talked about a desire to get some numbers, kind of a pro forma on our solid waste service. You know, you really can't just take part of it and analyze it. You have to kind of look at the whole project. And Andrew did a really good job, I think, here with this study with the help of Mary Bell. He put some numbers together on page 56. And I know it's a lot of numbers to look at, but I think Andrew did a really good job on that. And it's interesting to look down at the very bottom of the page. 2019, we were in the black as far as, just the solid waste program. 2020, it dropped some. 2021, it dropped some more. And then in 2022, it gets down to a negative number. And that's when we raised our rates a little bit last year. And you can see the result of that 2023 estimation. And we're getting back into the black. So I think Andrew did a really good job on this, and did a good job crunching numbers on that.
The problem with this is that we need to keep in mind is if you look towards the bottom with the equipment list, it cost us about $300,000 a year for equipment. And the trouble is we don't really have that in our budget anywhere, and we've talked capital improvement fund and all of that, but if we don't get that in our budget somewhere for depreciation, then 3 years from now we're going to have to buy $1 million worth of equipment. Where'd that come from?
That's right.
And we really need to start
That's a good point.
in all of those, more especially these high dollar departments, putting money in there where it goes into a separate capital improvement fund or into the bank or somewhere. We recognize it in the budget so that money's set aside for those big ticket items.
Yeah, and Andrew and I have talked about that quite a bit as far as maybe trying to set up a capital improvement fund or something similar to that. And
Or even a depreciation line, can you put a depreciation line in there? It can just go back to the checking account.
Maybe. It's just, it doesn't mean much when we're passing negative budgets about how much we're saving, so to speak. But, we do look at that about, the depreciation is the expense that we're kind of talking about, whether we put it into a capital expense fund or whatever. But, at this point, it's like going and just saying, oh, okay, well, there's a negative million on top of our negative 800,000, and that doesn't help us, that doesn't accomplish any goal either.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of cities, some cities will do a capital improvement plan, and then they'll charge themselves by the hour for the use of it, and that's the way you fund it back. And then another way that cities that are broke, the way they work is you have rotation when you have to schedule those payouts, you know, the annual payments for 5 years or 10 years or however long you amortize them out. And I think something that would be really smart if we can work out a way to schedule out those payments to refund our like a capital fund, so that we're basically borrowing money from ourselves and not having to borrow money to get equipment. Yeah, that's a good point. Anything else on that solid waste? And then the last thing I have in here is support stuff. Is last meeting we asked for a list of equipment, condition, and mileage, and luckily we were able to find most of them. Well, I'll roll in stock. Are there any questions on any of those? Or?
From the sanitation, are we documented to do another pit?
What?
Are we gonna have to do a pit pretty soon?
Yes, that's gonna be in your operation costs on the revenue.
But
We've got
it's
that.
not in there right now, so if we do a $175,000 pit, then it puts back in the negative for this year.
No, it's in there on, as operational. In the,
23?
what's that number? In there?
609, 01609.
I'll just find that on his little spreadsheet here.
I'm just kind of averaging out the cost of doing that bid every year on that bottom part. As opposed to like, instead of saying, oh, we did this year, we did next year, we just kind of average what it works out, and give you an average cost. And then I strip away all the capital expenses, and then put that average cost in to see if we're truly making money. Because we might not make money one year, maybe the next, a lot more the next year.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said, but
He got it explained.
sorry, I misunderstood the
Try to
question.
take some of the volatility out of the analysis. You're right. You give you some equipment, you might not-
Yeah, Andrew did a great job on that. He kind of reduced it down to the per ton and, you know, looked at the space and the compaction and all that stuff. So, they're helpful. And we'll probably need to take bids on that pretty quick. That's them removing that wrap material out of the waste would be big.
Is the expense of digging a pit in this budget?
Yeah, it's under operation. And it'd be under.
Contractual services.
Yeah. I think we put 180 in there. We shouldn't have to do any engineering work on it because it, you know, it's already engineered, the location of it and all that stuff. And, you know, I mean, that's a high end, I think. I think the actual digging is going to be, part of it's already dug. The guys have already been using dirt from that location, so. I think that's a good number.
When's the next pit for construction? Gonna need dug, Lance?
Is it gonna need to be dug?
Type 1, how much more years do you have on
Type 4.
Type 1 or type 4?
Type 4. I think you probably got another couple of years anyway.
Yeah, we still got a while
2 to 3.
on that one. That one doesn't fill up fast at all.
that? So you think 3.8 years is accurate average life for that one?
Yeah.
3 to 4 years.
We did it about a year and a half ago, so a couple of years.
Couple of years
left
old.
on it.
We still have another year or so left on it. It ain't filling up fast at all.
Well, the pit we're on right now, the final grade of that pit needs to be a lot higher than what the original surface was, because that's the slope of the,
Yeah, it
of
still
the
has a
landfill.
little-
So there's a lot more space in there than it looks like.
Yeah, it still has to go up another 10, 15 feet.
Oh, wow.
Basically, all we gotta do is stay with the natural grade. It can be higher, but it has to kind of fall like everything else before it, so.
There's a big drop off. from the
So,
road.
yeah.
And
It'll get to where we get to the other pits further in the future that it won't be able to be that high because we'll be on the side of that facing, so.
And that's kind of the highlights from the last meeting. Do we want to just go through these again on the departments, or what do you think?
Anybody have any particular questions or things? Any big park stuff that y'all thought about that you want to add in? Was one of the questions last time. Y'all are still studying that?
What I'd like to do is, I've got some drawings, I didn't bring them tonight, but I've got some drawings of the different parks, and we applied for the grant for Laguna, and we didn't get it. We scored like 16 because there wasn't 17, so I don't know why we scored so bad on it, but anyway, we didn't get money through that, but probably a good thing that we didn't, because it was terribly engineered. We used a company that I don't think we should have hired on it. But anyway, I do have some drawings on that, and I'd like to maybe at the next meeting propose to undedicate that park fund away from swimming pool, because we did that back when we built the pool, and that fund probably needs to be put back to where it should be originally, where it was. And there's what, 60 in that, 67,000 maybe
I believe so, yeah.
in the park fund. That, we should take in about 45,000 a year probably. And plus we have about 30,000, in 30,000 what we put in public works, just for parking. So got about 100,000. We wanted to do some stuff that would be free clear to the parks. I got some prices and some, printed out costs. I didn't bring them, but things like benches and ADA access. Lance has swing set and add over at Crescent Park. We've already ordered that and we have it now.
We have the money in the budget and in the fund that if y'all come up with some reasonable things, that we can look at that at any time in the year.
Yes. And at the next meeting, I'm also asked maybe to reappoint or appoint some park committee. And we don't really meet on a regular basis. It's more of a task force, but maybe see about appointing some folks on that. I'm sure most of them that were on it would be glad to stay on it.
When we're digging that pit, we're gonna have contractors in, maybe they could come in and look at Crescent Park, and, they're gonna have scrapers and stuff in.
That's a good idea.
Maybe they can just come and work on Crescent Park for us, and if Lagoon is able to straighten anything up, it'd be a good time to, we won't have to pay them to mobilize and everything.
Right, that's a good idea.
one concern with just the negative budget, I mean, this is second year in a row, we've been running a pretty negative, but that fire truck, which was an opportunity that we were able to make use of, and then this seal coat, we'll be able to finish the town up pretty much in this next budget, right?
I haven't looked at this, I mean, this is just a number in the budget. Just looking at the overall picture, we can finish it up this year. There's more than what we're doing now.
That we can make
But-
it where we can.
I think after this budget, the year after that, I think we can start tapering it down. And it won't be 750,000, I don't think, but I haven't counted the streets that close yet, but I do know that we won't cover it all this year. We'll have some more. Don't think it's quite
This
750,000.
the year will be Wayland Jennings to 84 Crescent Park.
Mostly east of the downtown, that whole triangle there, almost all of Dunbar, and a little bit east of Hall.
This new budget.
Yeah.
That's next year.
Oh, this year's, next month. It's up in there. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at, generally, we need to finish up the middle part of town around Crescent, and then probably some on the south of 84.
Hill Street.
And Cherry Blossom, that area over
Any other questions or concerns, thought, anything to add, take away? We just gotta kind of continue to strive for efficiency. We're not generating much more revenue, I mean, we're gonna have to continue to look at, there's no department we can get rid of. So, I mean, we just gotta, we can't run it. There isn't
there.
anything.
You're in administration.
We gotta get this back kind of where it balances, but in the future.
Oh, yeah.
And we knew these were coming, we've been talking about for years of some of these big capital improvements, but if you look at your capital improvement worksheet for next year, it's big.
Well, yeah, then I probably need to spray out some. A lot of the things that were kind of on the bubble from this year, I just put it on for next year. And not necessarily, I mean, that's just a piece of paper that helps you as far as your audit goes and if you're reviewed for your bond rating.
And Lance, the tractor is one that's new tractor, right? Is that what's in there? In this budget, it's one new tractor and to replace some of your old tractors.
Yes.
When will the auction happen? After the passage of this budget, or?
We're really not waiting on a whole lot right now. I think,
It's just information off of everything we're gonna sell.
Is compactor running? Are we gonna auction it off? Or?
Yes, it'll be ready. Yeah.
And that one, I don't know if we'll put it in the regular Bates, Renee Bates auction, but, depending on if we can run a video on it or something on that auction side, we may have to use one of the other heavy equipment,
Purple Waves.
Purple Wave or something like that. Something you can put a video on to show that it's going. I think that's huge if you're selling a compact.
Purple Wave sells a lot, because they'll auction too, Explorer. There's a lot of assets in the auction, isn't there?
So do we have a list already generated of what's going on up for auction?
They're making the list. Y'all got it going and just,
Can you have that on the next meeting with that list? Okay. And realistic, if you have a projection of what they stuff might bring, you don't know. But a compactor, I mean, it should be, hope we get $250,000.
I hope so. That's what I'm thinking we should get for it.
And we haven't had opportunity, nobody wants to trade for a track loader or anything. Or will they come look at it now that it's running and talk about trading for a track loader?
Is it actually running?
Yeah, I wouldn't put, yeah, it was a reserve pump, you know, where your fuel separator. What it was, a guy from CAT came and looked at it. He unplugged it, plugged it back in, broke the prongs off the deal. So I went ahead and put the new one on there and got it ready. Battery's charging now, so we should be good.
I didn't put anything to trade off the tractor loader in this budget.
I understand, but if we're getting rid of that compactor, if they'll offer us a reasonable price, that may be a good opportunity to get rid of it, know the price, not have to run the risk of an auction, especially item in an auction. Is, you know, we don't have that in the budget, but if they'll look at trading it on a track loader or a scraper or something, it may be a way to get rid of it and get something we need. So, I mean, I would encourage you to look at trying to trade it.
That crawler would be a good thing to trade it in.
Yes. If there's nothing else, Mitch, you have anything else?
I just got a quick question, just a clarification from myself, because I wasn't here last meeting.
Okay.
Just looking here, it just says that we are not going to increase any of the utilities, is that correct?
No, we don't have an increase in this budget.
I mean, that was something I think before the last meeting, we're breaking that down.
With a bond passage. But nervousness is if you raise them right now without the big infrastructure deal, what are you gonna do if you wanna do a big
Yeah,
infrastructure deal?
I just curious on the reason behind that, so.
I mean, it's an option if you wanna generate more revenue, but you only get to pull that genie out every now and then. And if we are gonna do water lines or lift stations or something, you're gonna need that tool to fund that bond.
And it just makes sense to have that utility infrastructure, tank and wells and stuff on a rate increase on utility.
Michael, anybody else?
So on the 22nd, I'll hand you an adoptable budget, and you can make changes at that time. If anything, between now and then comes up, you can make changes when it's adopted. But I had to run this ad in the paper about our budget hearing on the 22nd, and so state law requires you to say we're raising taxes, I mean, we're really keeping the same rate.
Is that going to require an election?
No, it actually is that to keep the same rate as last year, 62.5 cents, 625.655 per 100. It actually will generate over that election level, but we're allowed to use part of the increment from 3 years back, which was the first year we actually did the no new revenue. So 20, 21, and 22, we did no new revenue. So there's about 2.2 to 2.7 cents increment. I know this is, you wouldn't believe the complexity of that, but we can pull up to 3 years back. So if we pull part of that increment now, we lose it because you can only go 3 years back. And so we would use part of that increment from 2020 that was not used. This increment between the no new revenue and the voter election rate. And so that's allows us to go over the election level without having an election. It was a lot simpler in the old days where you just said boom, boom. Now it's pages after pages of formulas and things.
Anybody else? If not, we'll have our final hearing and we'll have our public hearing for tax rate and everything, and public hearing on our budget next time, and we can adopt it at that time, or something else comes up. All right, nothing else? Are you adjourned?